have a dream that one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created.
Good afternoon, dear brothers and sisters. I hope that you're fine. My name is Amilabu, a Master 1 student here at the English department. So today's interview will be with Professor Babacar DIENG.
Hello everybody, my name is Medika Joe. I'm a member of the press committee, and today we're gonna have an interview with Mr. DIENG, and I think you will like it.
Hello everyone, my name is Willie McIntyre. I'm a student English department. So as you know, we are here today to interview Dr. DIENG, and I think that we enjoy.
Hello to all of you. I go by the name of Shian and as usual, we're so proud to be here before you today. To do a kind of interview with one of the most important teachers in the English department, in the name of Mr. DIENG, and I hope that you are going to appreciate it.
Okay, so good afternoon, dear Professor. And
good afternoon.
Thank you for having accepted to be interviewed.
Welcome.
Please, can you reintroduce yourself?
Well, my name is Professor Babacar DIENG. I teach comparative literature, American civilization, American literature. My specialty is like comparative literature and American studies. I was born in Dakar, grew up in Dakar until the age of 11. And I went to a junior academy, which is called Pr Militaire de Saint-Louis, not far from here. And when I got my bac, I went to UCAT, the university in Dakar, where I got my BA and then my master's. And probably you've never heard about that DEA, what we call Diplôme d'études approfondies. And after that, I went to the US. First I used to go to the US as a camp counselor. When I was in my third year at the university, there was a program which was called ICCP, International Camp Counseling Program. And all summer I would be in Boston, working as a counselor. And then I would come back to pursue my studies. Well, I started studying business administration for 1.5 years because I lived in Connecticut for 18 months. But then, I came back home, taught for some years in high schools and decided I wanted to go further. Then I applied for a scholarship, Fulbright scholarship, which is given by the American Embassy, which allowed me to go to Washington, D.C., and then when I was accepted in the program, I decided to finish my PhD because the program was very interesting. And, it was a chance to learn more about Caribbean literature, American literature, British literature, etc. So briefly, and then when I finished, I came back home to serve my country.
Okay, so thank you. When you were a student, at a given time, you went to the US. So what did you experience as a student coming from a foreign country, and moreover, the fact of being black? What did you experience like?
I did not have any problem, because as I told you, I used to work in the US as a camp counselor. So I did it maybe 3 years in a row, back to back. And then I lived in the US in Connecticut for 18 months, before returning to study there. So you see, which makes it easier for me to adapt, adjust. Of course, in the US, I wasn't really confronted to serious issues of racism. Or at least maybe I was not aware of it, Yeah, I lived in an area which was pretty much integrated. Because Washington, D.C. is different. In D.C. you have the presence of all types of people, coming from all around the world. It's really multicultural, I would say. Just to give you an example, if you take, there is a street where you can have Ethiopian restaurant, West African restaurant, Chinese restaurant, you see, just to tell you that, in DC, you don't really face that problem. My integration wasn't hard, maybe because of my previous experience as a camp counselor and as a student. I studied business administration first before coming home, and then returning, some years later.
Okay. So you never suffered from racism there?
I mean, there are cases of racism. Sometimes even it is inner racism. Because you will see some black people who are jealous, you see. I remember one day, it was in a hotel. We were in a hotel downtown New York, Sloan House. And we came, out of the hall, and there was this black girl who was screaming at us, telling us to go back to our country. You see? So really, I mean, things happen, but, you have to deal with them. Face them. In your life, there will be challenges, whatever it is.
Okay, thank you. So some people still ignore the importance of English in such a point that, for example, when you say that you are a student, for example, at the English department, they can say, minimize you a little bit. So can you have the ability, for example, to tell us, the doors that English is able to open, and the job of putting these that it work with sentence.
I think people who say that are not aware of the importance of English, because now things have changed. If you want to live in the 21st century, I think you should be able to speak English, be able to use a computer, a drive or whatever, English is so important that even now, in kindergarten, people start, learning English. If you go to Dakar now, many elementary schools, they teach, computer science, but they teach English also. So whatever you do, because most of the knowledge in the world, is written in English. And you would be amazed. I don't remember the exact figure, but I think it is over 80% or 75% of the knowledge. Usually when discoveries are made, things are written in English first before they are translated. And whatever you do, computer science, even engineering, you really need to be good at English to be able to have access to that, wealth of knowledge. So English is very important. English is very, very important. And you can earn your living, with English as a translator, as a professor, whatever. And even you can start with English and go to something else also. It opens many, many doors.
You said that you were a student at Sheikh Anta Diop University.
Yeah.
Were you a member of the English club there?
Oh yeah, I was a member of the English club.
So can you tell us, for example, what you learned from the English? The advantages.
I think English club, is a good way to improve, your skills. Yeah, because we used to have presentations on Wednesdays, then we had films at the American Cultural Center, So, being in the English club was not only fun, but also a fast way of learning English. So I think it is, and then we had, and even being in the English club allowed me even to join, the ICCP program. Because when the embassy needed young people to go, because ICCP takes counselors from all around the world, France, Great Britain, Senegal, etc. And it was through the English club that, we had the opportunity to go to the US as students. I think I was just your age or something. Yeah, it was like my third year at Sheikh Anta Diop University.
Okay. So what advice can you give to the students concerning their studies?
Yeah, I mean, as I always say in class, studies should be taken seriously. If you want to be a scholar, I think you need to invest in your studies, not only time-wise, but even in terms of resources. You know, get yourself a good dictionary, buy the books, read a lot. You see what I mean? Work hard, because this is a very important step in your life. It will shape your future. Yeah, what you are now will define you. You see what I mean? And if you miss this step, you know what I mean? Then you may get out of the right path. So I would really ask you to be focused. You see what I mean? To be positive as well. Okay? And as Spike Lee said, do the right thing. You see? Yeah.
Okay, so your last word then? Your last word?
I mean, it's a great pleasure to have you. I know we've been planning this for a long time. Yeah. But as you know, I'm very busy. That is the reason why. Because apart from teaching, I help the rector, vice chancellor of the university, in the cabinet. And that's a lot of work, trying to solve the university's problems, on a daily basis. So it is really a great pleasure. And I hope also we'll be able to cooperate this year. Just to tell you, we've been working with the embassy to have an exposition on maybe key African American writers, such as Toni Morrison, etc. And hopefully in February, in cooperation with the English Club, we'll be able to conduct those activities.
Okay.
Yeah, and also as I said earlier, you are welcome to our activities. We have a research lab here, which is called LARAC, and usually on Wednesday afternoons we have presentations. So make sure you join also. Okay? All right.
Okay, so thank you so very much. It was a great pleasure for all of us.
Okay. Was it better the second time? Huh? It was better the second time. She's like a journalist,
Okay, that was all for the interview. I hope that you appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.
I have a dream. One day, this nation